This video is for multiplying rational expressions. We're going to start with actually just simplifying rational expressions. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself, can you factor anything out? Can you factor a trinomial, a perfect square, or difference of squares? Can you factor out a greatest common factor? You're always asking yourself, what can you factor? So on this first one here, we have x squared minus 5x minus 24. That is a trinomial, so we know we're going to break it down into two parentheses. Some of you may still need to do the magic of x method, or a times c, which is negative 24, adds up to be negative 5. The factors are negative 8 and 3. Or if you would like, you can use your calculator, and with your calculator, you can go y equals, take negative 24, divided by x, go second graph, and then find what values have a spread of 5, or 5 is the difference between them. So I'm going to go x minus 8 and x plus 3. And on the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm looking at the value of negative 64 with the factors that add up to be 0. That's called the difference of squares. So x minus 8 and x plus 8. I see I have two things that are the same, one on top, one on bottom. And we're going to cancel them out. Whatever is left stays in the respective spot, and that's your solution. So you have x plus 3 parentheses and x plus 8. I leave them in parentheses because it just makes me happy. It's up to you. On the next one, we have a c plus d at the top. That can't be simplified any further, so I'm just going to write down c plus d. On the next one, denominator, 3c squared minus 3d squared. I see they both have a 3 shared, which is a greatest common factor. I'm going to pull that out and left with c squared minus d squared. This is a difference of squares, just like example A, where you had x squared minus 64. C squared and d squared are perfect squares, so I'm going to break it down to 3 times c plus d and c minus d, because it's a difference of squares. And what I'm looking for is something that I can cancel out from the top and the bottom. I see they both have c plus d, so I'm going to cancel that out. On the top, when you cancel something out, this is the value of 1, so you're still left with a placeholder of 1. On the bottom, you have 3 times c minus d, and if you would like, you could go back through and remultiply it to 3c minus 3d. I'm okay with either answer. This will help us when we go into solving in the next standard, so I'm fine if you leave it like that. On this next one here, we have on the top y squared plus 3y minus 40. So once again, we have y squared plus 3y minus 40. And if I factored that, just to give myself a little bit more room, that'd be y minus 5 and y plus 8. And on the bottom, difference of squares, that order does matter, so it'd be 5 minus y and 5 plus y. And what we're looking at is we're trying to see if we can cancel anything out. That y plus 8 and 5 plus y does not change. So y plus 8 would stay, and 5 plus y is going to stay. But looking at these two, they are almost exactly the same, but they are slightly different. The top is the opposite of the bottom, or the bottom is the opposite of the top. And the symbol, or the numerical value that represents opposite, is a negative 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a negative 1 out of the top. And when I do that, it flips the order or changes the sign. So I'm going to rewrite it in this order because I switched the sign of negative 5 and I switched the sign of y. Y became negative and 5 became positive. The reason why I also wrote it in this order is because then it matches numerically down below. So since those match, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel them out. And as you can see, this part here was the same as this, so I'm going to throw a negative 1 here in front because that's what was left over. And if you wanted to, you could remultiply it. You could have negative y here minus 8 all over 5 plus y, or you could leave it with a negative in front. Your choice. So that gets us ready to start with multiplication. When we do multiplication, you're going to want to factor every single time, and then you're going to want to sit there and simplify. So we have two problems. The first one is monomials. Monomials is where you have no addition or subtraction between terms. We just have multiplication going on. What I like to do is I like to rewrite it as one big fraction, Because when you do multiplication, you're just going to multiply top times top, bottom times bottom. So I'd have 27x squared y to the 4th times 8z, all divided by 16yz cubed times 9xy cubed. And then what I look for is I look for anything that is the same top and bottom, just like what we did back in our polynomial standards, canceling things out. So I see that I have a z here and a z here. I actually have 3, so I'm going to cancel this z out with one of these, and I'm going to put a 2 here. I see that I have an x on the bottom and 2 x's on top, so I'm going to cancel one of these out. And then I have 3 here, 4 here, so I'm going to cancel these 3 out with that one, and then I'm going to rewrite it to make sure if I have anything that I'm missing. So with that, I'm going to write it down in pencil first. I'm going to have 27x y times 8, all divided by 16y z squared. Now by doing that, I can still see I have a y that I can cancel out. So my final answer, still writing down in pencil, I'm going to have an x and a z squared with the numbers. Oops, I forgot my 9. You can cancel, you can simplify. 9 goes into 27 3 times, 8 goes into 16 2 times, so you get 3 halves. Or, if you would like, and you really struggle with that mental math, which is okay, what you can do is you can use your calculator to your advantage. So what I would do, if you struggle with factoring numbers, take 27 times 8, enter, take 16 times 9, and then I would take that number of 216 divided by 144, which would be 27 times 8 divided by this, and then do math 1 frac, and what it does is it simplifies your fraction for you. So then this is 3 halves. You will have one question like this on your standard, which is a monomial with multiplication. It's not going to be exactly the same, but it is there. The other multiplication problem that I want to do is on the back of your notes. It is G. Whatever you're going to do every single time is you're going to look and see what you have to factor. So, writing out my problems, I need to factor 1, 2, 3 of the 4 parts because x minus 4 is not going to change. So with that, I'm going to, what's the factors of negative 21 that add to be negative 4? That's going to be x minus 7 and x plus 3. Factors of 8 that add up to be negative 6 are going to be x minus 4 and x minus 2. And the factors of negative 35 that add up to be negative 2 is going to be an x minus 7 and an x plus 5. So from here, I'm going to cancel out like terms or values that are the same. They're going to be the same value. It's not necessarily like terms, it's common binomials. So that's going to cancel with that. This is going to cancel with this. And whatever I'm left over with, I'm going to write down. So I have x plus 3. And on the bottom I have x minus 2 and x plus 5. Like I said before, you could multiply this back out. We like to leave it like this because of where we're going when we solve. We want to keep our factors separate. So we're going to keep it like this. And that's it.